Trevor and Sharon and all of you there in Dudley, God bless you. I thank God for you. I am considering coming into Great Britain sometimes this year, so possibly in the September time frame, we can start looking somewhere this summer and how we can connect again and be together. Now, this year is so important, so it's such an honor that you asked me to say something to you. Let me show you what the year really looks like. And with that, this year, see, we're in the season of war. It's a 10-year war season. It started in the year at Rosh Hashanah 2019, and it will go all the way through this decade. In Hebrew, it's called peh, of course, and it's linked with the breath, the voice, and it's producing great changes. There's a great warfare being created because God is breathing down on the earth. He's breathing down on you there in England, and it's causing things to change and change very rapidly. And we've been going through this war season, but this year, this coming year that we're in, the war is going to shift. And I believe this year, when I've studied all the way through the Word of God about Gamel, it looks like we are in the war for divine recovery. That means you're going to go back and look at every milestone that has been accomplished in your ministry. You're going to see what the enemy shortchanged you in. You're going to see how things got thwarted in certain ways. You're going to see, all right, now that ended and we want to begin new and fresh to recover fully and come into fullness with these particular things as we move forward. Also, concerning Gamel, it's linked with opening up new supply routes. In other words, supply routes will change in the year ahead. So you've got to know, you've got to be thinking provision, and provision is linked with vision. So that's why you've got to recalculate, each one of you individually, ministry-wise, corporately, and territorially and generationally. You have to recalculate and say, how will provision be coming for the vision ahead? Now, with that, you've got to know that our identity is changing. We are a weapon being formed for today. And so you're becoming a new, sharp, threshing instrument with teeth. You are moving into a whole new identity of authority, because anytime war is increasing, we must have authority to walk in who we are in Him. Now, with that, also because of that and your identity changing, you have to know old cycles have to break. I call them loop breaks. I have systems background. So what would happen if something got caught in a loop, it would go and go and go and distort the data at the end. So what God is going to do is come in with certain cycles in your life. Now let me explain cycles. It's time is in a circle. Therefore, because time is in a circle, what the enemy does is interrupt your circle and then start recreating or mixing his cycle in with you. And so what God is going to do is break that loop that the enemy has inserted in the past season. And with that, you're going to move forward and progress and prosper in a new way. Now, another thing about cycles is they are timed. And you have to understand they're supernaturally empowered, both by the Spirit of God and both by the enemy. So you have to see, how is the Spirit of God interrupting spiritual cycles that have formed in the past, and how is He recreating cycles for the future? And so that becomes very important. So every cycle that brought decrease, you can decree a new cycle of increase. You speak it, you decree it, and then you move toward it. Now, with that, in this war, I see that we will have a big face-off for divine recovery. And the Lord showed me these areas that we're going to have to face off the enemy in. You're going to have to look at every cycle that has entered into one of these areas. There is a war over communication. You're going to have to see, how are you communicating? What is your sphere you're communicating with? How are you interrupting that sphere with divine recovery information? You're going to have to look at the generations and how you're moving into the next phase of blending the generations and then sending the generations in. You're going to have to look at harvest. What is your sphere completely? And how are you harvesting that sphere? And with that, that has a lot of angelic activity for you to interact with. Because, remember, God visited me and sent an angel. This was a spiritual being that was real, and he said, I am the angel of war over God's covenant harvest plan. Therefore, we have to know what that covenant harvest plan is and the angelic help that has been sent to help us accomplish it. You can go look at Joshua, and remember, before he ever went into the promised land, he had to have an angelic visitation to take him in that would mobilize help, the host of heaven, to war with the army of the earth, so that they could take one piece or one city at a time. And I really believe that's where we're at as we go in, because see, we are still in this Passover season, this Pay season. Every year by Passover, you are moving into a place to cross over into the new. Therefore, what did God do at Passover? He always sent the Passover angel in. And with that, we have to understand this Passover principle of angelic visitation. The other thing is, there is a war over supply. Trade systems will be severely tested. And he's realigning key nations. Look what England's going through right now. And then this angelic war, no, angels are being positioned around your sphere. And with that, you have the ability to mobilize both the army of the earth and the army of heaven. Lord Sabaoth is over both. Another thing God showed me was this boiling pot. He showed it to me in November, and he said, I will set on the stove the boiling pot beginning December the 10th, and I will turn the fire on. Things will heat up greatly until Passover. One of the things you could go do is look at 2 Kings, where Elijah goes back to be Elisha goes back to be with the prophets. And when he gets back, they began to make this stew. And the younger prophets are bringing and putting some gourds in the stew that are poisonous. And I love Elisha's reaction. He doesn't get thrown off by the infection in the pot. He backs up, gets revelation from the Lord, puts that in the pot, neutralizes the poisons in the pot, and teaches the next generation how to move forward into the victory ahead. And then finally, I believe the greatest war we're going to be in this year is the glory war. You're going to have to look in your ministry to see how cycles of glory were thwarted. You're going to go back to where glory interruptions occurred, where the Spirit of God came down, where the glory of God was strong, and you're going to see how that was prevented from being fully established. We are in a time of divine recovery, and I decree right there, Apostle Trevor and Sharon, you will see divine recovery coming out of revival fire in Dudley. I bless you. I look forward to seeing you, and thank God for how you will advance.